Hey, everybody, Dr. Meri Crouley for Now is the Time. I've got one of my favorite people in the studio with me today, Ann Vandersteel. You know, she is an amazing woman, a producer, a content creator. She's traveled all over the country and the world, putting out content and exposing what's happening. She has a show now on Rumble called Real News. We're going to be talking about some amazing things today. But before we do that, today's program is sponsored by My Pillow. Let's roll that commercial, please.
I hear every day about the products you all wish My Pillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard My Pillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use My Pillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all My Pillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard My Pillows absolutely free.
Wow, 2 pillows for free. Anyway, go to mypillow.com, put in my promo code Meri, right in the middle of America, Meri. I love Mike. He's actually from my home state of Minnesota. So he's a great guy, great company, and it's great products. So go and purchase them today. Anyway, Ann, it's good to have you on. How have you been?
Oh, great, Meri. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you very much. Been extremely busy. Just got back on a red eye from travel. And, as they say, the beat goes on. The American people stood up and we elected the president that's out there to represent us. So we need to make sure that we continue to tell him what we need him to do. And then that's sometimes reminding everybody locally what's important and driving it from the local perspective. But overall, I'd say I'm giving him high marks. We just have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time before the next election rolls in, and less than, season starts in about 18 months. Got to get busy.
Well, and it's really, President Trump is just, he's a commander in chief, but it's really we the people. And really, we're just at the beginning of the battle. I've got a documentary called Freedom Cry about sex trafficking, and I'm out here in LA, and we've got to create content. That's how they were able to literally snowball people for so long, is because they have the narrative.
Yeah.
And we got to take back the movies and the media. And we're starting to see that happen, but we have to all stand up and continue to move ahead. And it's not just one man. So where'd you just get back from, Ann?
Well, I was up in Dallas. I was there for the week. I had some incredible meetings, stayed with some great folks, but I spoke to the largest Republican club called Heritage Ranch Republican Club up in Dallas. Wonderful group of people. I met with them on the phone a couple of weeks earlier, and we sort of drafted and crafted the agenda of what they wanted to hear. Last time I was out there, I spoke and shared the stage with Doc Pete Chambers, and we talked about the border, and I specifically went over what we learned through Operation Burning Edge. But at this point, not only do they want sort of a border summary, they wanted a Latin American relationship summary. What is it like for the United States right now in Latin America? And then they wanted to know, where do we go from here? How do we get to this point? But it was a lot. It was sort of like a dissertation in 3 major subjects in only an hour. So we touched on things, but it seemed to resonate, and I asked people straight up, look, are you here for Fox News talking points, or do you want the truth? And the looks around of the people around the faces of the room, these are Fox News diehards. They were like, uh-oh, what's coming if Fox News talking points aren't legit? So it was a good week overall.
Well, I was just in Texas, and I spoke in Dallas and in Austin, and I've interviewed Dr. Pete Chambers. I've met him before, actually, in Dallas. But yeah, the border has been an incredible, unbelievable, situation going on. And there's a lot of course, kids that are being brought over to be trafficked or organ harvested or, labor harvested, all of that. But, the one thing people don't get, and we talked about this briefly before the show, is that there's 1 million kids missing in America, homegrown, and CPS is one of the number one ways that they're getting these kids is through Child Protective Services. What do you know about CPS, Ann?
Well, CPS is a massive, massive money laundering operation, but it is the largest child trafficking organization in the country. And sadly, they get their funding from Social Security Administration Title IV funding, which is then dispersed down to the state level. But it's become an industry where it's not about keeping the family together. It's not about solving problems in the family that will, if there really is abuse going on, there the money isn't directed there. It says that it is, but at the end of the day, what they do is they separate the child from the family, and
Mhm.
they create an industry. It's a cottage industry around keeping the parents and the children separated. Um, it, it can be anything from medical kidnapping, which can start, for instance, in Arizona at the Phoenix Children's Hospital. I'll just put them on blast as an example. If you decide you don't want to vaccinate your child, that pediatrician could potentially go downstairs where there is a case officer from the Arizona's version of CPS in the basement that sits next to a judge that can say, "Oh yeah, Mr. and Mrs. So and so don't want to vaccinate their child," and so case officer writes an order up, goes next door to the judge's office, a family law judge, and he rubber stamps it, and they remove the child immediately. I mean, that child is hours old. And this goes on all over the country. It's not just Arizona, but this is one aspect. I have talked to so many families that have had CPS intervene, and instead of trying to keep the family together and get them help that they might need, they're all about taking them apart. North Carolina, where I spent 10 weeks making a movie called Ground Zero, North Carolina. One aspect of the movie looks specifically at the child trafficking in CPS for families that lost everything, Mary. They lost their home, their birth certificates, their taxes, all their paperwork, their cars, their clothes. There wasn't anything left except their lives, which is significant. And instead of CPS helping the family stay together, they approach the family either living in a tent or a hotel and tell the family this is unacceptable living conditions. And so we're going to take little Johnny and little Susie and we're going to move them into a foster home. The money spent to keep these kids separated from the family is at least twice as much as it would have taken to rent an entire house or an apartment for the family so they can have an appropriate roof over their heads as directed by the state. So we are about educating through our foundation, American Made Foundation, educating people on the truth behind CPS, on the truth behind birth certificates, which actually make your child a technical ward of the state, because it's not a certificate that shows you own the child. It's a certificate that gives ownership of that child to the state. And if they don't think you're doing a good job as mom and dad, they can then send in one of their agents, their goons from CPS or Department of Social Services, whatever the entity called, and remove the child. We got to end this. It's insanity.
Well, I basically did my grand opening or the premiere of my Freedom Crime movie at the Governor's Gun Club in Kennesaw, Georgia. And Nancy Schaefer was the state senator from, Georgia, that many of her constituents were coming to her and saying, like, listen, they've taken my child. What do I do? She was looking into it. Many people might have seen the documentary Stu Peters helped produce called These Little Ones. And literally, she was murdered. They
Yes.
tried to say her husband, Bruce, of over 50 years, killed her and then killed himself, murdered her and then committed suicide. And when I did that event, Maria Zach and a number of people that were in the room that day, that night, when I screened my film, said they knew Nancy and Bruce. They said there's no way that Bruce would have ever killed her. And the
Right.
interesting thing, Ann, is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was having their Christmas party in the room next to us. The GBI that basically were the ones that deemed it a murder suicide. And so God is the one that now he's literally exposing what's going on right now. But we, the people, have to go and do the work, and we have to take the action as well as pray, because as you
Right.
know, we are in a spiritual battle. And the judges are in on this. I mean, it's a big pay to play scheme,
Yeah.
and it's happening more and more, and they want to get the kids. I just got back from Kansas City, and as one of the speakers at this event, that 50 years ago today, and Billy Graham spoke before the First Nations in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and basically told them that they were the sleeping giants, and that there was going to be a move of God in this country when First Nations
Hmm.
started coming back to their roots. And really, that is happening now. But I don't know if you knew this. They had something called residential schools. Did you know about this, Ann?
No. What is
They
this?
would take they would take the Indian children in America and Canada out of the parents' homes. a very young age and put them in these residential schools where they weren't allowed to speak their language, like Cree or whatever language they were speaking, their native language. And then they'd literally try to teach them the white man's ways. But at night, many of them were being molested.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
saw this actually, believe it or not, when I was watching one of the Yellowstone series. I forget if it was 1923 or 1883. I don't recall which one it was, but I was watching Yellowstone. I did see how they were taking the Native American children and putting them in these Catholic schools. And you're right, they were being abused. And it was so bad that one of the Indians actually killed a couple of priests and nuns and then escaped. So that's a storyline that was actually immortalized by a real MAGA guy who's been around for a long time, Taylor Sheridan. He's the guy who's the writer producer behind all the Yellowstone series. Really impressive. A lot of red pills.
well, and I don't know if you know who Kevin Arnott is, but he's up in Canada. Sarah Westall introduced us, but he was a pastor of a church up there. Just came in. It was, I think, on the western side of Canada, and he said, "Well, there's all these Indians in the town. Why aren't they coming?" And so he started having them come and share their stories. Well, there was this whole thing that I don't know who these deep state players are up there, but they pretty much got the wife to leave him, really attacked him. And I mean, unbelievable stuff that this guy has done standing up as a freedom fighter. There's literally mass graves of bones of these children, literally mass graves of bones. And he literally has been a fighter. And, the work that he's done has been incredible, exposing a number of these other things that have gone on. And, I don't know if you knew this as well, but Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip came to Canada in, I think, 1964. They took 10 children on a picnic from a residential native school, never
Yeah.
brought them back.
Yeah. I've heard that. I read that a long time ago. Shocking, isn't it?
Never brought them back. And actually, Kevin Annette has an indictment against them in some court of law. I don't know the name of it. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but basically they were indicted by this court.
Yeah.
And they had one particular gentleman, who was going to testify, and he was poisoned. So we're in a real war, everybody. And
Yeah.
the children are the fuel for what's happening.
Correct.
And they're trying to push it down. They're trying to make you think. Like when I went to Thailand, and in 2017, and I was doing a lot of footage, like in Pattaya, Bangkok, had some great footage. And when I got back, God spoke to me and he said, "I don't want you to do this about Thailand. I want to show you what's happening in America." And so the name of your foundation again, Ann, is
American Made Foundation, and it's an educational tool for people that want to learn more about how, government overreach and bureaucracy has become tyrannical, and that we are no longer being protected by our Constitution, but we are being governed by unelected bureaucrats through agencies, and agencies that have really, they don't have the constitutional authority or power to come in and take your children from you. But we don't know this. And so we tacitly agree to give our children away and then have to go to court and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever it costs to fight to try and get your family put back together. And it's through the education that we're providing. So people now know where they can stand on the law and get their protections and not allow, tyranny to come in and destroy the family. And this has been part of the biblical battle is about destruction of the family. I mean, when you look at, say, abortion, right? The argument of abortion, this is a satanic ritual. This is child sacrifice. And so through CPS, they continue that ritual. First, they've got to, separate the child from the family. And then these, when you read even Mike Pompeo, when he was Secretary of State, not a lot of people know this. The yearly trafficking in persons report that the Secretary of State puts out during Mike Pompeo's tenure in 2019, they specifically called out the foster care system in America as the number one place for child traffickers to come and prey on children. So we are, whether we know it or not, whether we follow the money or not, we are funding and permitting the government to come in and destroy the family. And they've been coming at the family for a long time, including the income tax, which reduces your net income to so little that now you need both parents out working and putting your children in an indoctrination camp, i.e. public education, so that somebody can babysit and educate your children while both parents go out into the debt slave society to earn income, so that hopefully their net take home will be enough to provide for the family. This entire system is just so demonic, and it is coming down. As you know, Babylon is falling. It's just whether or not we are going to be crushed by the collapse, or are we going to stand and live and thrive? I'm going for the latter, obviously, but it's only through education. That's what American Made Foundation is all about. We are educating the public on this, and we're going to take action through our action arm, which is essentially using the B system of the corporate statutory law to attack them at their own field of fight, but then flip this table on their head and dissolve these agencies and bring it back to constitutional governments where the people are solving the problems back in their local communities. And so we've networked with a lot of incredible organizations like the America's Future folks, General Flynn's organizations, so that we can be the sort of the attack arm, and they can come in and provide the solution arm. And I think this is what we need to do, as Hillary Clinton said, right? It takes a village. Well, we're actually going to bring the village to the front again and stop being on the receiving end of just bureaucracy and tyranny.
Well, I know I'm going to be. I've interviewed Mary Ann O'Neill, General Flynn's sister, and I'll be in Yuba City. They're doing a big event out there. Pastor Dave Bryan. They actually have a how this.
Yeah.
But you probably know about that. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. But I need to connect you. There's a woman named Pamela Olson that she knows how to fight these people in court. She actually was trafficked by her own mother when she was growing up. And she said, if CPS comes to your door, don't let them in.
Right.
You don't have to let them in. I know they tried to there was something going on with a friend of mine, and she really helped my friend because they wanted to take, her son. He said, don't let him in. And we were able to save this young little boy, this young, kid from being taken by CPS.
Yeah.
Because if you let them in, they'll try to take your child because they make money. They make a lot of money on your children.
That's right. You're giving them the authority to come into your home, and now you're granting them authority to dictate to you. You're absolutely right. Do not let them in your house. And it's, this is terrible, but for all the members of the J6 community that had their houses swatted and flashbanged and doors, no knock warrants kicked in, they didn't have that authority, and they really, what's going to come next is really reparations for the J6 community, for people at various levels that spent, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it was, or they had to take a plea agreement. They're going to get their pound of flesh out of these corrupt agencies. And this is, again, the people standing back up, getting in their own authority, understanding how their authority was usurped by criminals using legal fiction, which is nothing more than stuff made up. It's not based on the constitutional law. These statutes and codes are not law. This is literally stuff made up. So when you really start to embrace that and understand what we're saying when we say it, it's not just a throwaway line at a cocktail party. It's legitimate. You have rights and you need to defend them. God gave them to you. When you really sit in that seat of power, there's nothing that you can't do. You are in control, and it lends itself to God's in control. He gave us the tools we need, right, to be in control. We just need to exercise them. That's all.
Well, it says faith without works is dead, being alone.
Right.
Like Paul says, you show me your faith, I'll show you my works. And that's why, we need to move. It's a movement, not a sitment. It's moving. We have to move.
That's right. That's good. May I recycle that one, Meri?
Sure.
I love it.
Well, even the film I've been working on for a number of years, it's a biopic about, Lonnie Frisbee, who was the catalyst for the Jesus movement. But actually, he was molested at 8 by a 17-year-old boy babysitter who he tried to tell his mom and stepdad in 1957. They didn't believe him. And Lonnie said, this was his quote, the only way a homosexual can reproduce is through molestation, because they end up, it's not just, homosexuals, it's the LGBT community. They're indoctrinated through the schools. You look what's happening with Hollywood, with the media, but then they're also molested. And, you look at in schools, and I don't know about you, but I was a tomboy when I was young.
So was I.
Yeah, we were both tomboys. And if they would have said, well, because you don't like, or you're a tomboy, you must be gay or lesbian. There's a time you don't like boys.
That's right.
Remember, you think boys are icky, and the same with girls.
I wanted to go climb trees and collect frogs, and I would take my Barbie dolls into the woods and play with my Barbies. So I don't know what that made me, but I was a Barbie girl, and I was also swinging from vines and climbing trees and collecting frogs and making aquariums. And yeah, I was a tomboy. I was dirty all the time.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is it's people go through a time where they don't like boys, they don't like
Right.
girls. And if you start telling them at that age, well, because you don't like boys, you must be lesbian at that age, and you sow a seed into their life, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to break down the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what God created, the family unit, a male and female, a father and a mother. And that's what they did to the natives growing up, took them out of their homes. That's what Hitler did with the Hitler Youth. They knew if they could get them at a young age, they could get them for life. But I do believe there's a greater movement coming. Lonnie Frisbee got touched him on a mountain in 67, showed him this vision of this Pacific Ocean with people in darkness. And he said, I'm putting a light on you to reach lost people. So that's what God's doing. He's putting lights on Ann, lights on me, lights on you, lights on all of us, our wheelhouse to speak the truth. And when
Yeah.
President Trump in 2017 put an executive order about child sex trafficking, in 2017, he knew the narrative, what was going down. Let's go on another subject, the borders. I've
Sure.
been down at the borders. In fact, remember when we were down there in McAllen, Texas?
Yeah.
You actually opened it, and I was on stage praying with General Flynn and Colonel Allen West, and Tom Homan was there, who now is
Yep.
the border czar of ICE
Yeah.
and everything. But remember, there was hardly anybody there because they so tried to attack that event with Christy Hutcherson, Women Fighting for America. But you got up there, and we were right there. And how many people would you say have crossed the borders? I know J.J. Carroll, we did a documentary about it. It said it's like 30 million over
Mm-hmm.
the last 4 years. What do you think? What are the stats that you feel, Ann?
Well, interestingly enough, Customs and Border Protection put a stat up, and they had it up for a few days. I screenshot it and I've referenced it because they said they said up to 46 million since 2021. That was coming from Customs and Border Protection. So
Wow.
I would say that's probably pretty accurate. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick out of Texas, right? At Abbott's lieutenant governor. Said it was between 40 and 60 million. So I'm going to go higher than JJ. It's 40 plus million. And, when you start to look at those numbers, we're looking at 1 in 7 people in America is not here legally. 1 in 7. Now extrapolate that to the Social Security Administration, which they were always saying it's bankrupt, it's bankrupt. Well, of course it's bankrupt. They just print money. But these people are minimally getting $2,200 a month just for being here illegally, crossing the border. It's not
But
like
hasn't that been stopped now since Trump has come in?
well, they're doing deportations. Yes, I haven't seen that he stopped the payments. And let's be honest about this. If you all of a sudden stop payments and you haven't mass deported these people, and they don't have a way to feed their families, what are they going to do? Where do they
Crime.
turn to get money for food?
Yeah.
Crime. And we already have a problem with crime. So, we're right now, America, I say this all the time. I consider America right now, imagine America as a patient in the emergency room. They've been in a horrific accident of some kind, and they're bleeding out everywhere. Well, you've got to find the biggest wound and the most dangerous one that would be of critical importance and you got to stop the one, because if you don't stop that wound, America's dying. That patient dies. Well, we've got hundreds of thousands of really, really bad criminals in this country. When we went to Panama, we were down on this Texas border, Arizona border. We documented criminal after criminal. We showed hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese military-age men. Even General Flynn said, "Yeah, we've got at least 120,000 People's Liberation PLA, PLO, excuse me, officers in the no PLA, excuse me." PLA, People's Liberation Army officers from China in our country. They're not here because they want to make a better life for themselves. They're here because China said you're going to go there. And we know that China has been waging what we call a chemical jihad against our country for a decade or more, sending in the fentanyl precursors into Mexico where they're making it and sending it into our country. Same as coming down from Canada. So when you look in triage, what's the worst of the worst? Well, we got to get the people that are hurting our people. They're raping us or they're taking over apartment complexes. So we're going after the worst of the worst. Getting those people out, working with Bukele down in El Salvador, where they've got, their own prison system that'll hold 40,000 of these animals. Send them down there. Those are the ones that are not only raping and killing, but they're also the ones that are trafficking these drugs in here. We have got to stop that, because all of those things are contributing to the death of good, honest Americans. And so that's got to end. Now we can start to go backwards from the worst of the worst and figure out, do we have people that have dangerous weapons in here? Are there any weapons of mass destruction in here? Are there, are there people that are here that are visa overstage? Are they taking over jobs that really should go to good Americans or college grads that need jobs? We know where these people are. I mean, you've interviewed people like Doc Pete Chambers. You know that these guys have teams through their ministry that will go in and take care of problems like human trafficking. These guys are door kickers. They go out there and solve the problems. We have got to find that power in ourselves again, Meri, and support those people on the ground, because again, the federal government is not the be all end all. The Constitution calls forth a militia. Every state constitution gives the governor the power to call forth the militia. Militia is not a dirty word. When we need to deputize good fellow Americans that want to go in, maybe they're former law enforcement or military, whatever, or maybe they're not, maybe they're just trained. We can organize these people and we can use them as our defense. This is what our country is being challenged with right now. And we shouldn't run from it. We should embrace it and say, this is America. This is my country. I love it. Darn it. I'm not going to let these people take over. And this is kind of this sort of metamorphosis we're having to go through. I call it a retrolution, where we are returning to our, we're going, it's sort of like retrolutionary. We're going back in time to what this country was supposed to be. And I think President Trump is doing a lot to restore that republic. But again, it comes down to, what are we going to do at the local level? Are we going to form that militia? Are we going to work with our sheriff? Are we going to take over the city council, our local Republican executive committees? What are we doing locally? Because Trump can't just sit up there and wave a magic wand and make this all better. It comes down to we the people. We are the government. It's so simple.
Well, and that's where, we're transformed by the renewing of our mind. And throughout history, because I'm writing a new book now, Destiny of a Nation, and I look at all the history of this nation, starting with the Pilgrims, but how God's hand was upon it, was a covenant with this nation. And there's moves of God that have come throughout. Usually before any great tragedy, there was a great move of God that started. And I believe that we're at that point in that time right now, Ann. Actually, God spoke to me years ago in the 90s, and he said to me, I didn't even know what the Jesus movement was. And I was down in San Diego speaking, and he said, I want you to do an event called Youth Wave, and the slogan is be a part of the new wave. And I'm going to start touching young people in mass. And we did about 10 outreaches. We had several thousand people at each one of these events. I don't do anything unless I feel that God is speaking to me about it, because I can't fight through the problems unless I hear. If I know he's got my back, I mean, I can run into a fire, but
right.
If I don't hear him say go, it's like, remember, Jesus only did that which he heard the Father tell him to do. Right. And people go, well, how do I know? Well, get into the Bible, pray and listen and hear that so small voice and jump in.
That's right.
But, jump in. So, Ann, how can people get into the game? What can they do to help people that go like, well, I don't know what to do? What would you tell them that they can do?
Well, first of all, I'm going to ask them, what is it when you look at the landscape, what is it that pulls at your heart? Are you someone that feels like they need to save children? Do you want to save animals? Are you worried about the food on your plate? What is important to you and your family right now? Is it your security? Is it the fact that you want to feel secure in your home? What really keeps you awake at night? Ask yourself that question. And once you ask yourself what keeps you awake at night, then start to educate yourself on the areas of the Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights. There's only 10 of them. There's only 10. It's not like it's going to take you all day to read the Bill of Rights. I mean, literally in 10 minutes, you can read them. And that's 10 minutes of studying them and reading them. So you get an understanding of what they are. If you don't know what one of the Bill of Rights is, type it into ChatGPT if you really have to and see what it says. Ask your friends, but find something, learn about it, and then ask yourself, well, should I get involved in my child's school board? Should I perhaps run for city council? What about county commissioner? Maybe a state rep. Maybe I want to go to Congress. But find something that you're passionate about. Educate yourself. Go and find podcasters that are very educated in the area that which you have interest. Listen to them. Take in as much information as you can. Find people you don't agree with. Listen to them so that you can formulate your own opinion and argument to substantiate why you are either on this side or that side of the issue. It's literally an investment of your time. And this can all be done when you're walking, driving your car, downtime, reading. I mean, there's so many avenues. You don't have an excuse not to be educated on a subject anymore, Meri, because it is everywhere. You can find it. And so for me, it's about educating yourself. And that's why we have the American Made Foundation, because we are educating people on what your rights are, and we're educating you on how to restore them. And then through our action arm, our 501c4, American Made Action, we are actually working with victims of, say, CPS, having them testify before their state legislator, having them testify at Congress. And we're going to help legislate to roll back the agency and increase or regulate or deregulate, depending on what it is, but through law, through proper constitutional law process of getting a bill passed, getting it signed on, and having the president sign it, or the state governor, or whatever it is. It's not an overnight process, Meri, but you have to start somewhere. And the first place you have to start is what is important to you, and learn everything you can about it. And if it's only a single issue, great, be an expert on it. Be an expert.
Yes. Well done. Well, where can they go? What is the website again, Ann?
AmericanMadeFoundation.org. It's AmericanMadeFoundation.org. I have my own website, which links you to all of my social media, AnnVandersteel.com. You can find my X, my Truth, Getter, all of it, my Rumble. It's all there, including my Substack. And I write about a lot of these issues. And you're going to see more and more coming out of the American Made Foundation, because we are on the move, and we are working very, very hard to take back our country.
Yes, well, Ann, it's been so great to have you on. It's so great of all of you watching. Please share this with as many people as you can, because sharing is caring, and we are the news now. And, this has been happening a long time. I've been doing television stuff for 20 years, and 4 years ago, God told me to change my format. I didn't know. I saw two faces side by side. I'm like, how do you do that? 5 years ago, like it was basically podcasts. So Anna Kate actually showed me on January 6th. We were all in an Airbnb. She said, well, you buy this Yeti mic and you do this, you do that. It took me a long time. I was used to being in the studio.
Yeah.
And so now everybody has a podcast. It's like, you know what? More the merrier. But listen, the thing is, I've been doing this a long time. And we, the people, I knew a lot about trafficking. But after I interviewed Liz Crokin in 2017, all of a sudden in the studio in LA, and I didn't know what MK Ultra was. I go, MK Ultra, what's that? I mean, what's I didn't know any of this stuff. Adrenochrome. I mean, I literally went down a rabbit hole. Like I'd interviewed people that had been trafficked. I interviewed Noreen Gosh, whose son, Johnny Gosh, was taken in 1982 out of Des Moines, Iowa, as a paper boy on his route. They found out later his father was involved, the chief of police was involved, a whole myriad of people were involved. But 10 years, America's Most Wanted, was out there. There was news that he was alive, but they didn't know where he was. And finally, Ann, she was on the Lisa Gibbons show, shared her story, and she said, Johnny, your father and I are no longer married. We're no longer living in the same home you were abducted from. But my address is in the Des Moines phone book. And Ann, she told me 3 months later, middle of the night, knock on the door. She said, I look in the people and I hear the voice of my son saying, Mom, it's me, Johnny. And now he's in his 20s. He had been 12 when she saw him last. She opened the door. He comes in. He's with another boy his age, sat down on the couch and said, Mom, I was abducted by an elite pedophile ring that goes up to the highest levels of government, entertainment, and business. That's what this whole Epstein Island, that's what this P. Diddy thing. I mean, unbelievable stories. I have a million, I mean, not a million, but I have a lot of stories like that.
But we're not seeing any resolution coming from the Epstein file reveal, right? So far, nothing has happened. We've been hearing about it. Yeah. So it's coming back to what you're talking about, what I'm talking about. We down here, the little people, we're the government, we're the kings and the queens, we're the sovereigns. And President Trump, I love him, but he works for you and me, right? Pam Bondi, she works for us. All these people, Kash Patel, Scott Besson at the Treasury, they all work for the people. So if we're not loud, like you said, with your microphone and telling them what we want done, we're not doing our job. It's that simple.
So you guys take action, get in contact with Ann's organization, reach out. We're doing in Vegas. I was just in Vegas, Annie LeBaire, as an incredible safe house. We can't say where it is, but I toured it Literally, she has an organization called Hookers for Jesus. We're going to be doing a 3-day event. Maybe we can do some partnering, Ann.
Love
with
it.
some stuff. I'm also doing some events out here in LA. We're partnering with people. That's what we all have to do is link arms. We're not there to
Bingo.
compete. We're there to complete.
That's
So
it.
anyway, thank you, Ann, for coming on. Thank you for
Thank you.
watching. And Ann, I'll have you back on again soon. Let's do it more regularly. And Ann will have me on her show. See, we're cross-pollination.
That's
what
right.
we're doing. We're helping each other.
Amen.
help
Thank
each
you so
other.
much, Meri Crouley. You're amazing. Thank you.
Well, so are you, Ann, and God bless you. Thanks for watching. Please share this, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, and please keep coming back to watch more. You never know who's going to be on. God bless you all. We'll see you soon.